Recording in progress.
Hello and welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain. Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting people who are navigating herpes stigma. I want to thank y'all for your patience with me. I have been experiencing grief probably over the last several months, arguably 3, I would say. And I'm at a place now where the grief has sort of detangled like a lot of the emotions that were bundled up in that grief. I'm able to more clearly articulate and name, as well as deal with. And when I say deal with emotions, I don't want to sound like, these are things that you like have to deal with begrudgingly, but to be able to look at them and say, oh, there's a lesson in this. There's a lesson here. And so, what I want to first name is that I've moved back home to St. Louis, Missouri. I am in an office space, as you can probably see behind me, but it's not really together yet. So I'm gonna put that together. Um, and this was very unexpected, I want to say, but I'll speak as best I can to it in a way that is just using me statements, and I want to do so in a healthy way while still being real about, where we are, how we got here. So many of you might know this if you regularly have listened to the podcast. You'll have heard me mention my now ex-partner, but you would hear me talk about the relationship that I was in and some of the ways that I talked about it. And I spoke to that relationship in very positive ways. It was very positive on my end and my experience with it. So I was real about what was happening. And so, unfortunately, over the last few months, you'll see that podcast episodes were inconsistent. You'll see that um, maybe if you follow me on social media, you'll notice some inconsistencies there in terms of like frequently posting the events that I've had. I've been canceling stuff over the last few months, and that's really not like me. So it's important to me that I name that here and with this audience. For those who don't know that I was in a relationship, like I was in a relationship and it's over, like officially, at least since I moved out of or moved away from New Jersey, it was ending for a longer time than that. And yeah, it's something to grieve. I've had my moments of having really, really good days and really, really bad days. There have been sad moments. There have been moments of like thinking, oh, this relationship could work if only, and even exploring like my own willingness to do the things that on the surface seem required in order for that relationship to work out in the future. And something about it just didn't seem accurate to me. So as I've been working through the grief process, I haven't been posting anything on social media because I don't want anything to like leak out that I'm unaware of. One of the things that I wanted to do is be very intentional with how I'm engaging with people. So I like to just name that for the things that I have canceled, the things that I have had to show up for. I've just named very early on, hey, I'm grieving right now. I'm experiencing some grief, so I might lose my train of thought. Uh, I might get a little scattered. I may uh, forget, you know, some important information. Perfect example, teaching a yoga class, right? Doing one side of something one way and then doing the other side and kind of out of order. This was actually something that has happened recently. But given that it's been a consistent several good days for me now, I'm recognizing after journaling today enough to where I will speak to you all about what's going on. But in addition to that, this is my 12-year herpetoversary, the day that this is being recorded, the day that this is going to be posted. Um, I've had my herpes diagnosis now for 12 years. It was March, yeah, 2013. Um, And I can talk about that a little bit later, but I think it's more important that I just speak to this one time, be done with it, and not have to bring it up again. One of the things that I've been working on since moving back home to St. Louis, Missouri, is asking for what I need and being able to set boundaries. So if you are someone who knows who my ex is, which I mean, I don't think a lot of people knew we're together. I think more people probably know that we've ended the relationship or that we've broken up, just in terms of how she's been, or how I hear she's speaking about it online. That's been the case. And I don't want to give it any energy. I don't, but I do think it's important for me to just name what I've come to learn, not just from that, but my patterns of as well as how it's played out in something positive for positive people. So I think that these go together very well. My mom would always say, Courtney, you have a lot of anger. You are an angry person. And I never really understood that. And in 2017, when I started something positive for positive people, that started because of a reaction that I had. And I never looked at this as anger until I got into it. And when I learned that people with herpes had suicide ideation, I recognize that I have an ugly relationship to suicide. I have, I'm not going to name who, but my family members who have threatened suicide. I have an ex-partner who made an attempt to end her own life, and I called and something was off to me. I made a phone call, and people were able to get there and save her. I recently talked to her because I was curious. I was like, "Do you have herpes? Is that why you tried to kill yourself?" And she was like, "No. Everything's good." She made a donation to the nonprofit, thanked me, and it was just a pleasant full circle closure moment. And this was born out of my anger. This is a very productive use of my anger. So over the years, as I've continued to have this be a space where I'm able to channel the energy of anger for a cause, I think that that's led to me really not having to deal with my anger on a personal level. So this is something that I'm passionate about. It's my career. And in addition to that, I'm not really having the practice of expressing anger. My mom saying that I'm angry and have a lot of anger, I've always been very resistant to. And once I stopped being resistant to it, I was like, oh, I do. And I have so much capacity for anger, or my emotional bandwidth is so big that I'm able to channel that anger into something positive for positive people. And my recent relationship ending, one of the things that I learned is that I very much shifted what I pour into something positive into my relationship. And so something positive began to kind of like downhill decline with me just kind of maintaining the bare minimum, but I'm pouring emotion into the relationship. And it's emotion that is unpracticed, right? Practically with another person on an intimate relational level. Throughout this, I wrote down, I have my notebook right here where I wrote today about anger. And I wrote down that I am angry. Saying that just gave me a sensation in my body. Um, I've tried maybe 17 times at this point to be able to just record a podcast sharing my relationship ended. I'm going through some grief. I moved back home, and here's what happened. And I'm very glad that I had all those takes to try and get this out, because I don't think that it would have come out as concise and with as much clarity and from a place of just calm as it is now. And I believe that this is part of my process of moving the anger. My yoga therapist and mentor, Antonio, I do not say his last name correctly. He does yoga for grief relief. And one of the things that he said is that in order to move anger, you need to let the person who made you angry know that they made you angry. So my relationship didn't end because I'm an angry person. My relationship ended because I masked my anger with niceness. This might look like not having boundaries, not letting people know I need. This may look like not letting people know that they make me angry. And throughout the relationship, I've questioned like the balance between what is healthy and like the Instagram therapy and the healed version of things versus what's real. Emotion is very real and there is an intensity behind it that I understand way more than just someone telling me, hey, Courtney, you did this thing. I don't like that you did this thing. Instead of doing that thing, next time, can you do this thing? And the language that I'm used to is aggressive single black mom, like yelling, got the belt, or even granddad, or just like whoopings. Like I'm used to violent consequences and expressions. And that's somebody that I've never wanted to become. I never want to be violent or abusive in relationships. So when I think about expressing anger, I never really thought about it as being able to communicate it in any way that channels a connectedness to a person where things can get done. Um, I also recognize that masking anger with niceness by not letting people know the things that they do that make me angry is something that makes me angry because it's not only what they do, but it's also what they don't do. Now, as someone with anger, and I fear my anger. It has not been safe for me to be angry except for when I play sports on the football field or to sort of like let the intensity of that emotion come out as a sense of connection with sexual partners, right? So the do me harder or the yeah, like give me that emotional intensity. I'm trying to be very PG here because I also recognize like the natural evolution of the something positive audience and there's like healthcare workers here that might be listening in who I might work with in the future. So don't hold it against me. This is something that I've been doing for the 8 years that I've been running the podcast at least. So yeah, I just want this to be real. I want this to be useful. Um, and the reason I'm bringing this here is because it is in fact affecting me. I hear about how my ex has talked about the end of our relationship, and I have anger even about that. And it's important for me to not let that anger manifest as any sort of passive aggressiveness or any like anger or rage that, or any maliciousness. Let me not say that because the anger does need to come out. And it doesn't need to come out in name calling. It doesn't need to come. And in fact, it's not letting my anger out that I believe is the real reason that the relationship ended. Had I not been afraid of my anger, had I not, had I been able to have more of a connection with it, I think that the repeat offenses of me bottling up and pushing down my anger would not have turned into me allowing the relationship to end in the way that she believes that it ended or believed that it ended. There was a part of me that was just like, Courtney, you know what? This is your out. Just go with it. Get out of here and we'll figure it out from here. I call that version of me capital C Courtney. And this is who I've been for a while, I believe, indulging in the safety of my life, whereas lowercase Courtney is who I became. And that version of me really indulges in the freedom of life. So there's this inner imbalance within myself between safety and freedom. And I think that being given freedom early on in my relationship made me want to see, okay, we have this thing here, but what about this other thing that I need? Let me see and test. And without naming that this is what I need, because I didn't know that that was what I needed, force that here. So I've tried to make my relationship home. I've run away from home, not run away literally, but like my lowercase self has impulsively moved to Texas, and then my more rational and security, safety self, higher self called me back home. And then my impulsive self moved me to Portland, Oregon. And then my capital C Courtney brought me back home. And then I moved. My plan was to go from, well, my plan was to stay home in St. Louis, but then my living situation fell through and I was able to move back to Portland, Oregon. So impulsively or rationally, I would say it made sense for me to just go back to Portland. So I was there. And then I visited New York. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I rationalized it and was like, what? I'm gonna move to New York. And along the way was when I met my ex-girlfriend and ended up living in New Jersey. It was a better opportunity for me. I could get back and forth to New York easier. I could see her more. And it was cheaper and I could have my own space. So that really, really worked out well for me. And throughout the acting on lowercase Courtney, the impulsive self, there was a lot of me that didn't give my safety version of me the opportunity to like step in and be like more, this is one of those grief moments, and be more assertive. I think that I associate assertiveness with anger as well. I'm very assertive with my direction in something positive for positive people. But as far as it goes in my relationship, I think that I associated anger and assertiveness with. So I fear feeling or I fear telling people what they aren't doing because of my anger. I remember, my mom and my dad, the way that my mom would interact with my dad was always from a place of anger. It was, you ain't doing this, you not doing that. And my responsibility was kind of in this like triangle of communication. Mom tells me to ask my dad for something. When my mom tells me to ask my dad for something, I'm not asking him for something. I'm telling him, my mom said, this is what I need. So I'm very indirect about getting my needs met or asking for what I need. Yeah, I know I need school clothes, but I'm making do with what I got. I know we ain't got no money. I know that, it's a luxury to be able to get new school clothes. I know my clothes are fitting differently as I'm growing, but my mom told me to tell my dad I need some school clothes. So I told my dad I need some school clothes. So this is how I was taught to communicate about what I need. Someone else needs something for me, and I need to like tell somebody that because otherwise, like I may do with what I had. I remember washing my two pairs of jeans every 3 days because I knew how to use a washing machine. So granted, I might be like using more laundry detergent to wash these two pairs of jeans so that they were clean for me to go back to school. But it would have been a lot easier for me to just, hey, dad, um, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm wearing the same two pairs of jeans for the week. I'm washing my school clothes and I could use more school clothes. Can you get me more pants, more jeans? If my dad heard that, there's no reason that he wouldn't have taken me jeans shopping or school shopping. And just for background, my parents weren't together. As far as I can remember, my parents have not been together. And I just thought that this was normal, even where I grew up. All my friends, we saw our dads on weekends, and we lived with our mom and another man. Um, or one of my best friends, actually, his dad just worked in another city, and he was still there. But that still counts. So going back to the anger thing, my mom got angry at my dad for what he didn't do. So when I'm telling him, hey, my mama said I need your school clothes, he probably just kind of like dismissed it, whatever. And it took for my mom to blow up on my dad, and I saw this before anything got done. She never hit him. There was anything like that, but she'd call him over the phone and just rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, or even when like one of them would drop me off to the other, she would get on him about what he wasn't doing. And here I see it right here. It makes me angry, not only what people do, but what they don't do. It's all right here. It's all right here. And like I said, like I fear my anger because when my mom asked for what I needed, which I mean, I guess is kind of what she needed, she did so in a way that I didn't like. There was a lot of just anger behind it. The yelling was unnecessary. I can't remember if there was name calling, but I do remember yelling. And these were things that I like said I would never do. And I think that my mom knows I'm intuitively, I would say, because she's seen me like rage at different times and different situations that to me called for it. I think that when I would fight somebody, I wasn't fighting that person for the thing that they did. I was fighting everybody that I couldn't fight. I got into a fight every year in school except for second grade. Every year I got into a fight. And when I did, like that was the releasing of the rage, except for playing sports, right? Like playing sports was a way for me to release and express a lot of that anger. But I wrote down here, perhaps this anger is from a place of not just asking for what I want from the person. Wait, hold on. Why did I say that? Perhaps this anger is from a place of not just asking directly for what it is that I want from the person. I'll reject myself by saying they probably can't give me what I want, so I just won't ask. And then when I do ask, finally, they're blindsided because the chances that I had to express what my needs were and asking them to meet them were not met with this request, but an attempted expression of niceness. So, an example of this is, let's say I know what I want from somebody, right? Like, hey, I see that you have chocolate chip cookies. I'd like a chocolate chip cookie, please. No, you can't have one of my chocolate chip cookies for whatever reason. Like, I'm selling these, or these are mine to eat. That's a person setting, a boundary. You got to respect it, right? Let's say I go, damn, those cookies look good over there. And they're like, oh, yeah, they do, don't they? It's like, yeah, I wonder what they taste like. I wonder what they smell like. Oh, how much are they? Right? Like I'm being nice and I'm not being direct. I am indirectly hoping that this person has a cookie for me. And so time goes on, and every time I don't get a cookie, there's anger. And the anger's building up because I don't know how to ask for a cookie. No one came to me and said, Courtney, go ask that lady for a cookie. Courtney, go tell your dad you need some school clothes. For me to be like, hey, you know what? So and so needs this. And I think that this plays out in my work with the nonprofit. Like, it's so easy for me to say, hey, these people need support. These people need the resources that I'm offering. Like, these people need me to go and do these things that I often get rejected for and seemingly am not affected by. So my childhood trauma has shaped me to do this job very, very well. I'm appreciative of it from that perspective, but it has not done a good job in training me for being in relationships with people. I am able to um, have sexual relationships with people, but when it comes to the long-term things of expressing anger, because there's not really the in-your-face situations that warrant anger and for that anger to be expressed. So I'm not just saying, hey, can I have a cookie? and then hearing no or yes, and then moving forward. So because I'm hoping for a cookie secretly and I'm asking, oh man, like I see how many cookies you got. You have a lot of cookies over there. Yeah, I'm selling them. Oh, you're selling them? How much are you selling them for? And I'm not just directly going, okay, here, I'll give you, this for the cookie because this person doesn't know that they don't know that I want a cookie. So I know I want a cookie. They don't know I want a cookie and they have the cookie. So imagine if this person didn't have cookies and they had crackers. And I see those crackers and I'm like, damn, those crackers look, man, but I really want a cookie. Hey, what you got over there? Oh, that's what you got? What got you into crackers? Oh, okay. Like you just like eating crackers. Okay. Huh. What else you got? Oh, okay. Damn. Like I'm hearing in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, all they have is crackers. I don't want no damn crackers. I want a cookie. Oh, okay. And I'm not even just saying, hey, do you have any cookies? Like I really want a cookie. Do you know where I can get some cookies? They may be able to tell me where I can go to get my needs met, where I can go to get a cookie, but all they have are crackers. So this person has told me, hey, all I have are crackers here. This is what I have. This is what, you know, this is how much they cost. Here's how many I have. And I'm just like inquiring, and that's the niceness. So the more that I'm not offered a cookie by this person who only has crackers, the more anger is happening. And I'm also not like just it maybe anger feels like a strong word, but that's what it is. The intensity of emotion is kind of like being rejected, but the person has no idea that they're declining any offer that you're making. So I'm not making an offer. I'm not saying, hey, person, I really like cookies. Do you like cookies? Oh my God, yeah, I love cookies. Oh, well, hey, uh, let's get cookies together. Let's get cookies together with someone who has and likes crackers, gives them the opportunity to say, no, thanks, I don't like cookies. Or, yeah, like I know this good cookie place. Or, hey, well, where can we get some cookies? None of that. So the more that I'm not asking, the more that there's this pressure being built up of an intensity of an emotion. And the emotion in this situation is anger for me. I'm repeating a childhood pattern by asking someone for something that they don't have, hoping that they'll have it or be able to get it for me. And then in the process, I'm being nice. I'm being nice and I'm like, oh, well, maybe we can go get some cookies sometime. Like, whoa, I just talked to you for 20 minutes about crackers and you throwing cookies in here all of a sudden? And now, like, I'm fully aware that this person's not okay with cookies. They don't like cookies, whatever. And now I'm like found out. So I'm in shock. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst. Like she knows that I like cookies and then being shamed for liking and wanting cookies rather than just being told, hey, Courtney, the only thing going on over here is crackers. Okay. So if you want crackers, I can help you with that. But if you want cookies, I ain't your person. So you can go down the street to the cookie shop. I don't want cookies with you. I'm fine over here with my crackers. So I blindsided this person with my anger of like being shamed for liking cookies, but also for finally getting to a point where I do express my needs because it's a very difficult thing for me to do. And despite every opportunity that I had to say, hey, cracker person, oh my God, that sounds terrible. Hey, person with crackers, I want some cookies. Every opportunity was an invitation for me to be like, what do you mean you don't have cookies? Even if that were the expression of anger, like it wouldn't have drug out so long. And it's very much the same way that I talk about the herpes disclosure, right? You know you have herpes, the person doesn't know you have herpes, you're communicating, getting to know each other, and now you're talking about sex. Bam, when you make this contact where the conversation goes from I like these things in bed and I like things in bed to I can see these things happening with you, the longer we go without that person knowing that you have herpes, which is important information, they're building assumptions about what the relationship's going to look like. You're building assumptions about what the relationship's going to look like. But you have much more currently relevant information than they do, perhaps. So by the time you do decide to say something, bam. And that bam is kind of like this rubber band collapsing your expectations together and just shattering them on the floor for everybody to be like, well, what the fuck? And that to me is very synonymous to my experience with my anger. Um, and the resentment that comes from it, because I'm not saying instead of, hey, I have herpes, it's, hey, I want cookies. So the blindsiding a person in that way is also just one more way to not get your needs met. And it's a very solid self-fulfilling prophecy because the longer you go, doing this, it's almost like you intuitively know, hey, this person is not able to meet my needs, but I'm going to instead of and there's something in the anger that I've been resistant to, and I've written about it, so it's here somewhere. I gotta get there. Please bear with me as I get through this. Um, the niceness kind of lowers people's guard, but it raises it in a way to where people might be a little bit more suspicious of, I'm not sure what this person wants from me, but I like what they're giving to me. And the niceness is the give, right? So every nice act is stored in this bank of, I did this many things for you. So when I cash in for my reward, you have to say yes to what my ask is. And then the anger comes in when I'm presented with clear indications that this person is incapable of meeting said need. And then I have feelings about all of those instances rather than just expressing what they are, like even leading up to that, there's always hints, right? Even in the example that I gave of those cookies look really good. Those cookies, you have a lot of those. Oh, what kind of cookies do you have? Do you have this flavor of cookie? Like being kind and just giving the energy and the attention to it. Or maybe I go, oh, here's I'm gonna pay you more for these cookies. I'm not gonna eat them, but I'm gonna just give you money for these cookies because that's a nice thing to do that I can store in my bank of things that when the time comes, I can cash out, right? So this person's incapable of meeting my needs, and I have recognized that, and I'm also like not saying, hey, here's what I need. At any of those moments early on, I could have gone, yo, do you have Oreo flavored cookies and cream cookies? For her to just say no. Okay. Do you plan on having them? Yeah, maybe one day in the future, but not right now. And then I'm given the option basically to, okay, I can move forward with another kind of cookie, or I can go, all right, thanks, no, thank you, but no, thank you. I'm gonna go and find the cookies. And there's no hard feelings. But my fear of my anger maybe even comes from being told no and then dipping the fuck out. And it's yeah, like there's fear of my own anger, and we can go into all of that. But yeah, when I get that clear indication that somebody's not capable of meeting my needs, that's when I have my explosion. And the explosion is from a buildup of not having just like it's to myself. Like for not having said, yo, this ain't working. And I can't do that without boundaries. I can't do that without knowing what my needs are. So how can someone ask for what they need or what they want if they don't know what those are? And if the things that you know you need, because I wrote the first line was, I'm angry that I'm not getting what I want. I mask anger with niceness, not letting people know the things that they do to make me angry actually make me angry. And it's not just what they do, but it's what they don't do. And I don't express my anger for the things that people. So also like even in making asks for things to happen or get done or making requests, the way that I've made the request or the way that I express my feelings about the request not being met, even after it being agreed to, people interpret anger differently. I express anger in violent ways. That is who I am. And the Instagram shit, the therapy stuff, like that's cool, but I think maybe sometimes people need to intuitively like know and feel the anger and know that that's what it is so that they can respond accordingly. And that's like something that I struggle with and I'm brushing up against because it's not safe for me, a fucking 6 foot, 220 whatever pound black man who is a big black man. Like that's just the only way that I can put it. It's not safe for me to have anger that is expressive in that way. I have not been taught how to manage that anger. The way that I manage the anger has been, fortunately, over the last 8 years through something positive for positive people, like putting that anger towards a cause that I believe in. That is a fixed thing that I've unfortunately stopped pouring so much into because I have named this before that I don't believe that I can have a family and run something positive for positive people. I need to be flexible. I need to be ready to move at any given moment. I need to be able to have the the availability in my schedule to be able to talk to people randomly, to be able to go to these conferences, to be able to fly anywhere that I need to be for some opportunity that I might not otherwise get. And I threw all that shit away because it was more important to me to take care of business, of course, in my relationship and work towards and build that than it was for me to run something positive for positive people efficiently. Like I started a whole other business as a result of me not expressing like my own anger. The same way that I've not asked for things, there were things that were asked of me that I had the opportunity to say no to, but I didn't. Instead of meeting it with a no and what my real feelings were, I think that that might have been interpreted as not emotionally connecting because I'm like, oh, well, what you're saying makes sense. But if the thing that is being said that I'm agreeing to or submitting to, arguably, is not in alignment with who I am and my values, my needs, my boundaries, then that's when I say no. And if there's any pushback, that's where the boundaries come in. But the boundaries to me seem like they can only be upheld with like some emotional investment. And the emotional investment maybe is in that realm of anger and assertiveness because that's what I've associated assertiveness with. And I just haven't thought that there was room for anger in my relationships because I've seen abuse in my family growing up, domestic abuse. I've seen it in people around me, and I don't want that. But another type of abuse that I haven't seen is emotional abuse. And I don't know that, you know, not knowing that something's going on and doing your best to communicate it could be seen as emotional abuse or manipulation. It's more so neglectful, I would say. So yeah, like I was writing here and my therapist and I we came up with this that there's these two versions of myself. There's the capital letter C Courtney and then the lower case C Courtney, right? And I asked myself here, like, how can I set expectations about what I want if I'm unwilling to do what it takes to find healthy people to meet those wants for me? And when that came up, I thought about, unhealthy people attract unhealthy people, despite how healthy I may have thought I was or have been. Something in me reverted to this unhealthy or broken or divided version of myself. Like I was moving in capital C Courtney for a while, and then there were things, I guess, that happened that made me revert back to my lowercase c Courtney self. And the lowercase c me very much values freedom and play and fun because I didn't have that as a kid. It wasn't safe for me to have fun. So there was an overindulgence or overcalibration of safety and security as a kid with the prioritization of survival. And now as an adult that, seemingly has a little bit more freedom or a little bit more security and safety, I made room for that version of me, the lowercase me, kid me, to be able to just play and be impulsive and do whatever it is that he needed and wanted to do. I'm not getting what I want, and my anger might be where the solution is. Anger has saved me, regardless of the buildup. And if the my again Antonio, the yoga therapist mentor that I have had, says that when we're angry, people need to know that we're angry. He gave me an example in class. He was like, let's say you came late to class, right? And I was like, you know what, Courtney, it really makes me angry that you're late to class. Please don't be late to class again, or else I'm gonna have to kick you out. So he let me know, hey, you're angry, and here's the consequence of you making me angry again. That was a boundary. If you're late again, I have to kick you out of class. So me not having the emotional safety of myself to experience and utilize my anger is something that's fearful to me because it means that if I do set boundaries, if I do set expectations, any violation of those is going to warrant anger. Like, hey, it makes me angry when you violate my boundary. Like, now I got to leave. And can you imagine doing that for somebody who has like a very anxious attachment style, who, when you need space, they need closeness. And then what that does is that your unspoken boundary becomes violated because you're prioritizing said other person, giving them what it is that they need or are asking for, while compromising yourself. And the anger is not outwardly directed. It can't be like, hey, you gotta sit with the consequences of your actions. Now, new consequences are being created because of my own unwillingness to be with what my anger is and take from that anger that the importance of boundaries. So what's in my anger can be what creates the boundaries, and the expression of what I need, um, being a response of anger in a way, like a healthy anger response, being the consequence. Like, all right, yeah, you might not like that I need space, but that's what I need. And you knew not to do this thing that we talked about you not doing for me to be able to make this a consequence. So that I think that that's where a big solution is for myself, because I violated my own boundaries often without even knowing what these boundaries are. So a need of mine is I can't get angry and express my anger in a way that another person might be able to receive. The way that I know anger is a very familiar way of experiencing anger from a lot of people. And not expressing anger might seem like me not showing emotion, but like I can't lose myself. And yeah, I'm afraid of my I've seen what my anger's done to other people, but I've also learned over the last 8 years, people, like you're in a relationship with, and go, all right, let me use this thing that I learned to do, yeah, do this instead. Don't know, don't know nobody talk for all like therapists out there, yay, we from we apply the tools into things. But I think that one thing that I've done for sure for myself is I've tried to not be this toxic version of myself. And the word toxic is so fucking overused. It annoys me. But sometimes toxic is just real. It's real, it's raw emotion. Healthy maybe integrates like practical tools for healing into that what we call toxicity, but it's real. And I've not been able to be real in a relationship. My therapist challenged me on this. I've not been real and on the podcast. There's a massive niceness. I do a lot of free shit. And while it may not be the expectation, I've just noticed what happens is that for who can't give, still serving them in the way that I have, in the way that I do, in the way that I will, somebody else out there kind of just like pays it forward. Out of nowhere, like a huge donation, out of nowhere, I'll get a grant or an opportunity. And to me, like it all pays for itself. And I can't say with certainty that there's been anger. No, there has been actually. There has been anger when someone books a free support call and then on the call they show up and they're driving like a BMW. Or I had this one person sign up for a support call for $1 and I'm seeing like, dude, super flashy. And I didn't say anything, but I absolutely need to start doing that. So it's very ironic that I'm home again, uh, because this is the very place where family, my friends, my community is. There's a lot of influences. There's a lot of people here who they can influence me or be like, hey, Courtney, let's go out for a drink. Hey, Courtney, can you do this for me? And I have to name my boundaries. And one of the things that I always say is I don't think boundaries are necessarily for time, but they're for things. Boundaries around my time. Wait, what did I say? I don't think boundaries are for people. I think they're for things. Time to me is a thing. Emotional state, my energy, that's a thing. My finances, a thing. Health, a thing. So if I have boundaries that are in place, and I think that asserting these is part of the anger, because there's assertiveness. And I've associated that with anger. But to say to people, hey, you always ask me out on Fridays, and like Fridays are a semi smooth, relaxing work day for me. I'm working half the day, and then I want to make sure to make time to do this thing and this thing. Right. So when my friend hits me up and is like, oh, I'm back in town, like, come on, let's go get food at this place. It's like, okay, well, it's Friday and I do still need to do something. Ah, fuck it, I'll do it later. That's a violation of my boundary. I communicate it's like, hey, so typically on Fridays, here's my day. It's like, I meet you at this place, or we can do this time. How to use boundaries around my time. And yeah, like I can't when I think about, how it finally presented itself after repeatedly being did because of asking for something that one, I don't know I'm asking for, but I'm hoping for, and two, the other person doesn't know it's a big test of them that manifested for time as needing to leave and walking away. And this is where that lowercase c, capital C Courtney come in, because lowercase c was compliant and just didn't want to be angry, want angry at me. And then capital C Courtney was just kind of like shoved into a closet in a way until little C Courtney saw like, oh my God, like everything that I thought has been threatened, my existence, my freedom is threatened. I'm feeling impulsive. Oh my God, what do I do? And then capital C Courtney comes out and just like saved me. I've been split between this lowercase c and this capital big C. And I think coming in at the beginning, Big C was very masculine, had, more stoic, and has like some intuition. and it's responsible for keeping me safe. Lil C Courtney, impulsive. Lil C Courtney's like, hey, we moving. Let's go to Portland. Let's go to New York. And much more emotional, but also that version of me is very needy. And that needy version of me that I've tried so hard to just get rid of, that version of me doesn't have boundaries. That version of me is nice. That version of me is anxious. And that version of me absolutely fears loneliness, fears my emotions, my anger, fears conflict, and it fears self limitations and restrictions of the spirit. I don't know how to allow these aspects of self to coexist. And that creates a barrier to wholeness for myself to be able to attract and maintain a whole person. So I'm listening to the book No More, well, I just finished it again, No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. And so much of that book is what I have been doing, not just in my relationship, my most recent relationship, but relationships before that, in my career, in my life, with my family, with my friends, even with Carl. Carl pointed this out to me. Carl owns the gym that I have this office space in and then I'm teaching yoga classes in. You know, when I got here, I was like, man, how much is rent? Like, let me pay you something. He was like, well, you always do that. Like, just let somebody do something nice for you. And I think it was in that moment that I recognized like a need of mine for healing, which is to just flat out ask for what I need from people who are capable of providing it for me rather than finding people who can't, or like getting one thing from them, but then wanting something else from. Like if I were to just, know that this is a need, this is a need, this is a need. Okay, this person needs this need, cool. This person needs that need, cool. This person needs, these needs in this realm. This person will be able to meet these things, but not this one thing, and be able to act accordingly and be able to have boundaries around the relationship. But I can't do that if I myself am not whole to understand that these needs that I have, I'm responsible for. These needs that I have that I don't know that I have, I'm responsible for identifying what these needs are. I'm responsible for that. And I'm responsible for getting them met. And so, while the book title, No More Mr. Nice Guy, probably sounds like it's turning you into an asshole, what it does is it teaches you how to exercise boundary setting. It teaches you how to identify what you need, how to ask for what you need, how to create a life for yourself that is whole and complete, that a whole and complete partner can come into and merge into. And I think that I was talking to my friend Will this morning about having your shit together. And I think that that statement of having your shit together, didn't apply to me. Like I might seem like it's together, but like I've moved a lot. I have not had firm footing planted anywhere over the last 5 years, since 2020, 2021, when I left and moved to Portland. I've not had stable footing for that long. And here I am, like in my last relationship, trying to talk about having a family and like building towards that. And I was working in a different way and I divided my presence, I divided my focus in such a way that I was doing so much of this future planning logically, right? And that's where capital C Courtney was like distracted. Like capital C Courtney had to be there for that. And then capital C Courtney was also needed in the relationship. And the capacity just was fucking dwindled. And it was because I was unable to be whole. And yeah, that absence of what there is on the other side of my anger or what's in that anger, that's where the boundaries are. That's where the needs are. That's where the fears are. So I've been practicing allowing myself to receive. I've been practicing receiving just presents from people, gifts from people, food from people, just like rides from people, just support with settling into my new space. And I've also practiced saying no. Like my family wants me to have a car, and I'm like, I've not had a car for years. I want y'all want me to have one. And so that was a very hard thing for me to do, was to not accept, like, and accepting things has been a challenge for me as well. But I was able to say no without there being like any anger behind it, despite the pushiness of it. But I do feel much more equipped to do that because I now have the practice of saying no in an environment to people that I should not ever say no to according to my childhood. So I'm fragmented and not healthy myself. I attract brokenness because I too am broken. What's kept me safe has come at the cost of freedom, and what's brought me freedom has come at the cost, at the expense of safety. I go into one extreme and I try to get the other, and then anger builds because I want that from someone, and then boom, low C comes in for big C, or low C like drops the ball, and then big C has to come in, handle things, and save the day. So, in having looked at like my relationship structures, like I've been single for a really long time, like prior to me entering the most recent relationship that I had. And there were a lot of just tendencies that little C Courtney just carried into the beginning of the relationship. And despite like how impulsive, how immature little C was, there was always kind of like this undercurrent of Big C Courtney that was like operating in the background of what's most important. So while like the right now, the intricacies of things that I've done through not having the skills that come from being practiced at expressing anger, such as boundary setting, identifying your needs, asking for what you need, setting expectations, the bigger picture was always like taken care of by Big C. And I see like what's needed now is integration. And what integration looks like is balancing my safety needs and freedom. I've been able to get safety needs met in some places. I've been able to get freedom needs met in some places. And for the first time in my life, I'm not dependent on one or the other. My home, my space, I signed a lease. My space looks the way that I want my space to look. I've organized my space to where it looks like I'm gonna be there for. I haven't decorated a place that I've lived since college. I moved to Houston in, I believe, at the end of 2013 or 2014. I was there for 3 years. I moved back to St. Louis. I was staying with my grandmother for a bit, and then I moved into a place where I subleased for someone. And then I moved in with my ex at the time in 2018, 2019. We moved in together in that same place. And then after that, I moved into my own spot, and I never decorated. I had a bed, a couch, TV, a little workspace. Like I had the essentials, man. And like for where I'm at right now, I'm fucking proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for how I've been navigating this grief. I'm proud of myself for the support that I have gotten. And I'm very grateful for the support that I haven't gotten, right? Like I recognize that, you know, the people, my people have checked on me. And I don't want to make this a divisive thing, but we all have our own lived experiences. And for me, I think that me really leaning into this experience for myself and like not going to social media and getting whatever validation I think that I would get, like just talking to the people close to me and my friends, like they've given me grace because I've been so hard on myself about why my relationship didn't work out. I've been really hard on myself, and giving them all of the information that there is to give, to hear them say that and be like, nah, Courtney, like this wasn't all you. And for me to have seen myself do such a great job of something that I haven't had practice with has shown me that like I'm a damn good partner to someone's whatever that ends up looking like. And as this continues to get worked on and as I begin to integrate my capital C Courtney and little c Courtney, that balance of freedom and safety is coming from here. It's coming inside out. So as I'm talking to my therapist like 2 to 3 times a week right now, and I'm around people who allow me to have my feelings, like I got to be angry with Carl, or not with him, but like in his presence yesterday. And that felt good. I got to just talk about anger and being angry and do some reading about it. And that's where I'm at now. I thought I was sad, but there's just a lot of anger. And there's no anger like at her. Like the anger is very much like toward myself for not coming rated. I presented capital C Courtney, masculine, safe, the emotionally intelligent, and then I presented little Courtney, lowercase Courtney, who is impulsive, needs freedom. And these are two aspects of myself that I'm integrating as I live here and as I get to be in the middle of the United States where, I have the safety, secure family, friends, home. I now know that I can make enough money. My living expenses were triple what they are living in St. Louis or when I was living in New Jersey. And I'm not like paying for two people now. So yeah, I mean, as far as how things go with that, I have more freedom to be able to go do the things that bring me joy. I'm able to go and play more and do more of the traveling that doesn't require like cross country flights. So as I do this, it means less pressure buildup of anger because in setting boundaries, this protects my time, my emotional state, my energy, my health, my need for safety and freedom. And that's what I'm doing and I'm working on it, right? So this means really expressing the emotions within my boundaries of expression. If I need space, I need to say that, and I need why. I need to communicate my anger. Like my anger is not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be mad about. My anger is nothing to be mad about. So this wasn't supposed to turn into all of that. It was supposed to have been, it's just me sharing my experiences with anger, being in my 12th year of my herpes diagnosis and having started something positive for positive people out of anger. This just feels like a full circle, beautiful moment. It was 8 years ago that I moved home around this time and I started something positive for positive people. It was mid-February. It was around Mardi Gras in 2019, or yeah, 2019 Mardi Gras. No, 17. Damn it, 2017 Mardi Gras was when I moved back home to St. Louis from Houston, Texas, and here I am now, right? Like picking where I left off. uh, and completing the cycle. My astrologer, shout out to Tasha, Agent of Pluto on Instagram. It's agent.of.pluto, who told me we are in the process of completing like an 8-year cycle. And it's just a beautiful moment for me to, over the last 8 years, to be able to use my anger work wise. And now I've been forced, unfortunately at the expense of a relationship and, whatever relationships that, go along with that, with losing that one. It's unfortunate, like, um, I've gone from, I've gone through the process of being sad and it'll come up again, I'm sure. But yeah, it sucks to think that your life is going to look one way and then it doesn't. And now, I feel like the grieving process is more revealing to me of having the certainty of what my life gonna look like rather than focusing on what my and someone else's life is gonna look like. Because again, like that came from a place of brokenness for me, of not being whole. My masculine self, the capital C Courtney, and the feminine self, the lowercase c Courtney. I was talking to someone, it's like two magnets, both North Poles, and just like trying to get them together, these two parts of myself. And I'm forcing this. I'm very much like with the magnets. When if you just kind of relax and surrender, what'll happen is one side's probably just gonna flip around. Or, when you stop trying to force these sides together, I think like if they're long magnets, they just clamp together and they integrate. And that's what this process is for me being home. I gotta integrate this anger. My anger is the resistance. So I have to healthily express it. I can't fear my anger. I can't fear like that my anger is going to trigger somebody in the same way that my anger has been triggering for me. I also recognize too that I can't keep doing this like Instagram therapy shit in my relationships. I just can't. Like I gotta be a real fucking person. And if I don't like something, I need to speak up about the thing I don't like. If I want something, I need to ask for that thing that I want. And that's what I've learned. That's what I've learned. And yeah, like I wish my ex well. I think that she's gonna be successful at what she does. And our relationship didn't work out. And I know why on my end, and I know what I need to work on for the next relationships. Um, but yeah, I wanted to take some time before saying anything about it, other than I'm experiencing some grief right now. And today just it feels like the right time to do it. Just with my herpes anniversary, my 12-year herpes anniversary. I want to apologize for canceling a few of the Safe Sex Expo. We really only had one person registered by like Tuesday, and they bought a ticket. And we had all these plans for that day that just fell through. And I think that where I was energetically at the time is what kept this from happening. And I'm grateful because it would have into that particular thing in that way. Couple of just updates. I completed the hardest module of my yoga therapy training. The anatomy and functional therapy part was hard, y'all, but I finished it. So now it's just like a matter of completing a few more modules, case studies. If you're somebody who's curious about yoga therapy for people with herpes, please hit me up. It's not doing yoga, I promise. There's much more talking with it. I'll share case studies and testimonials as I come up with like more workshops for us. I'll just be doing some of that directly because I canceled the Safe Slut and we were going to do a work session. Her, a lot of people I've heard from, So I think that I'm gonna accept the fact that so many people were rating in life timeline where we are diagnosis and stigma that it just makes more sense to do things virtually rather than trying to do things in person. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to continue to focus on the healing for myself. My self-directed anger is something that I plan to practice letting go of today. Um, and yeah, I think that speaking about that moving forward feels good, but this is gonna be the only time like I talk about the end of that relationship. I do believe that uh isn't the place for it, but I do believe that y'all need to know like my state of wellness, which is why it was so important for me to be on camera too, so that y'all can see my face and know that like there's no like hard feelings. You know, I do think that a lot of things, there's a lot of things that if I had access to, I would have done and communicated differently. Like we work together and that's something that I always wanted. Like I always like envisioned being able to work with and travel with, you know, my person, despite the relationship style. But being able to book these conferences and be able to get paid and turn it into a little vacation and also being able to be in the field that we're in and have that understanding and all this stuff, man. So I got some work to do. I got some work to do around my anger. I'm not sure what else will come up in that, but I'll put it appropriately where it needs to go. If you are unaware, I have another podcast called Self, where I speak about my own emotional wellness. It's kind of like a diary, a verbal diary, if you will. And I think that that's more appropriate for me to talk about upcoming experiences as I navigate the next steps after this breakup. And it's not anything big. I think like five people listen to it, but it's more for my own accountability. Um, have the practice of flexing my emotional wellness muscle. You know, some people journal, which I do too, but I think that it's important to utilize that podcast and that safe space that I've created for is one of accountability and one that I need to be consistent with. So that's it. This is how I'm celebrating my 12. Ooh, sorry. This is how I'm celebrating my 12-year herp anniversary. Um, I would like to get some gooey butter cake. That's a St. Louis thing. Yeah, there's plenty of places I could probably get it. Ooh, I should go to High Point. I don't know. I got so many options, but it does feel good to be home. If you're somebody here in St. Louis, I'm teaching yoga classes at Given 100, the gym I used to train people at. It's in University City, close to Forest Park. Come holla at me. Yeah, I'm here. This is home. I'm finally home. We want to call it a homecoming, full circle moment, whatever, between coming out about herpes and now I'm coming back with my herpes. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna stop there. Let me go ahead and hit stop record. And yeah, till next time, y'all.